Good morning, students. As I told you about Mrs. Macpherson, her house was burnt. She used candles instead of electricity, considering it to be cheap. She was in a nursing home named Worlington House on the Dorchester Road. So see students, and I found Worlington House nursing home easily enough. There were paper chains up in the hallway and a lighted Christmas tree stood in the corner with a lopsided angle on top. I said I was a friend come to visit Mrs. Macpherson to bring her a Christmas present. I could see through into the dining room where everyone was wearing a paper hat and singing. The matron had a hat on too and seemed happy enough to see me. She even offered me a mince pie. She walked me along the corridor. Mrs. Macpherson is not in with the others. She told me she is rather confused today, so we thought it best if she had a good rest. She has no family, no one visit, so I'm sure she will be only too pleased to see you. She took me into a conservatory with wicker chairs and potted plants all round and left me. The old lady was sitting in a wheelchair, her hands folded in her lap. She had silver white hair pinned into a wispy bun. She was gazing out at the garden. Hello, I said. She turned and looked up at me vacantly. Happy Christmas, Connie. I went on. I found this. I think it's yours. As I was speaking, her eyes never left my face. I opened the tin box and gave it to her. That was the moment her eyes lit up with recognition and her face became suffused with a sudden glow of happiness. I explained about the desk, about how I had found it, but I don't think she was listening for a while. She said nothing, but stroked the letter tenderly with her fingertips. Suddenly, she reached out and took my hand, and her eyes were filled with tears. You told me you had come home by Christmas, dearest, she said, and here you are, the best Christmas present in the world. Come closer, Jim, dear. Sit down. I sat down beside her and she kissed my cheek. I read your letter so often, Jim. Every day I wanted to hear your voice in my head. It always made me feel you were with me, and now you are back. You can read it to me yourself. Would you do that for me, Jim, dear? I just want to hear your voice again. I had loved that so much. And then perhaps we will have some tea. I have made you a nice Christmas cake, marzipan all around. I know how much you love marzipan. So in this way, students, I told you that when the author entered his hallway and a lighted Christmas tree kept in a corner with a lopsided angle on top, he asked for Mrs. Macpherson while waiting to observe that everyone in the dining room was singing and wearing a paper hat. So in this way, students, the matron offered a mince pie and took him along the corridor. She told him that Mrs. Macpherson was not with the others. She would be happy to have a visitor as she did not have a family. He saw an old lady sitting in a wheelchair. She folded hands in her lap. Her hair was folded in a wispy bun. The visitor wished her Merry Christmas Connie and gave her the tin box. He described her how he discovered that, but she paid no heed to all his conversation. Rather, she was smiling. She came forward with tearful eyes. She mistook him for her husband Jim. She asked him to sit near her and read the letters himself. She wanted to hear her voice. She told him that they would have for Christmas cake and marzipan because it was the favorite dish of Mr. Macpherson. In this way, Connie wanted to hear the voice of her husband because he promised he will come back after the war. So she thought that the author was the Jim Macpherson. So in this way, students, your chapter number 1 finished, and tomorrow I will explain next chapter. So there are some question answers in this chapter. I will tell you tomorrow. Thank you, students. Have a nice day.